Well, good morning, everyone. It is now 10 o'clock. Happy New Year. Welcome to the first training of Swiftland's 2018 year. My name is Aaron Blumberg, and I am Swiftland's CE Coordinator, and it is my pleasure to welcome you to STEAM Recycled, Low Budget, or Free STEAM. We have a wonderful learning opportunity ready for you this morning with Full Steam Ahead. Full Steam Ahead is an enrichment program that integrates the arts and sciences through high-quality, engaging instruction with cutting-edge technology. Learning is hands-on, project-based, and very fun. They help students become creative, fearless problem solvers possessing the skills to confidently tackle the future. Please welcome Ryan and Hillary Shore of Full Steam Ahead and enjoy their webinar this morning. Ryan and Hillary?
Hello, Aaron. Good morning.
Good morning, everybody. We hope you're all staying warm out there. We're coming to you from sunny, kind of freezing Bonita Springs.
Yeah, it's a little chilly outside, so hope you're all staying warm. Thank you so much for being here. So just to get started, some of the things that you can expect from our webinar today are some ideas on planning and implementing STEAM around recycled materials. We're going to give you a lot of resources. We're going to give you lesson plans and some projects and ideas, tools, materials, tips, things that we have, little things that we've learned along the way. We'll also advocate for the need for STEAM in non-traditional learning environments and guide you guys around some of the common pitfalls associated with teaching STEAM.
And we'll actually be kind of working in a reverse order here. We'll be starting with the common pitfalls and working our way up from there.
And just as a heads up, so we are Full Steam Ahead, and this is an extracurricular enrichment program focused on the arts and sciences. And my name is Hillary Shore, and my husband, I'll introduce him. My husband is Ryan Shore. He's the co-founder and the STEM guru here at Full Steam Ahead. He's been in public education for 7 years before we started Full Steam Ahead. He's great at STEAM curriculum. He won the Golden Apple, and he's very good at working with the kids and teaching them how to fearlessly solve problems and dive in and fix things.
And let me introduce my wonderful wife, Hillary, over here. We're back for our third year of Full Steam Ahead, and this is starting our third year of our Swiftland webinars, yeah. Which of course means that we haven't killed each other yet. Woo! So my wife Hillary, she's the music guru and the co-founder here at Full Steam Ahead. She's 8 years of public education, all in music, K-5, and her specialty is music curriculum development and instruction. And if you've ever seen her teach, which you haven't, it's just amazing to watch her with a group of kids teaching them music. She knows how to bring out the passion and the inspiration in everybody.
Thanks.
Except me. You tried to teach me music one time, and it didn't go well.
No. And you'll learn that just as we start getting into this. There are two of us, so if you have any questions, you can always type in some questions here in the chat box, and then while the other person is talking, we can answer. And we really like to keep everything engaging. So join in, agree, disagree, talk to us. We can all get the most out of this.
So we like to be as interactive as possible too. So right now you should have up on your screen an option to draw. So I see that people are typing there, and I love to see where everyone's coming from. I want to actually physically see it. So we're coming right here. I'm putting a little circle right on the corner of Lee and Collier County. That's where we're located right now. You guys can try to draw. Whoa. All right.
Excellent. Labeling, very good.
Nice. Ooh, right, yep. Farther south than us. I hope it's warmer over there in Broward. I see a little, what is that? Little dot past, no, Pinellas County over there.
Okay, ooh, someone way up there.
Gulf County, cool. So we're spread all over the state here. This is fantastic. We're so lucky that you guys could join us today.
Cool.
Oh, and a couple other people right in Lee County there.
Nice.
All right, so we're gonna have a little more fun with this. One more time, I'm gonna turn off the draw for a second, and then we want to know our audience a little bit more too. So this is the free slash budget STEAM workshop webinar rather. So I want you to put on the screen somewhere on this continuum. What is your monthly STEAM budget like? Somewhere from what budget all the way to whatever I want.
Is there anyone who is actually there? On the whatever I want?
I'm gonna add myself here.
Oh, okay.
There.
Yeah,
Because that's pretty much all we do.
this is true. Ooh.
Ooh.
All right.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yellow drawing I just saw. That's cool. Nice. Okay, so we're definitely pretty spread out here. Awesome.
Excellent. Well, this is good. I mean, we're all over the map here, and we kind of built in,
Cool.
activities that can either be bare bones, or we're building in quite a bit of extensions and elaborations onto these activities too. So if you need to use that STEAM budget up, then hey, we got you covered there too. All right, moving on.
Okay. So what exactly is STEAM? I mean, the obvious answer is science, technology, engineering, arts, and math. Since I'm music and we have our own business, it's music is mostly the M, but we incorporate math as well. But, I think for us, and if you've been with us before, you've heard this, but STEAM for us it really combines multiple disciplines in a way that it starts this whole brand new mindset. It's not just about the content taught. It's creativity, problem solving, thinking critically, working through things, using the knowledge that you have and applying it to something that you're working at, and confidently just diving in and making it happen. So for us, that's STEAM is, it goes a little deeper than just the subjects.
And to add some further context to the kinds of lessons and activities that we're going to be giving you today, I want to talk for a second about process versus product, and kind of how to teach with these things in mind. So when you're focused on the end product, a lot of times you have kind of closed-ended activities. It's very heavy on instruction. Do this, do that, do this. Okay, you're done. It's highly structured and it's highly modeled. In other words, the kids are trying to exactly recreate what the teachers are doing. You can see an example down here. Focused on process, things are a little more open-ended. They're guided rather than modeled or structured. So, the kids have an opportunity.
Cool, Susan.
The kids have an opportunity to explore and add their own creativity, their own unique spin onto the product. Or into the process. So when we teach these types of lessons, we really want to be focused on process. Especially with our younger students. To add to this a little bit, we have another wrench we're going to throw in here: content versus process versus product. So content simply is what kids are learning. They're learning math, they're learning addition, they're learning ecosystems. Process is how the kids are learning, the environment that we teach them, the skills that we teach them, the thinking skills that we teach them in. And then the product is, of course, what the kids actually make, what they create. STEAM is right here, and the STEAM sweet spot is kind of right there in the middle of process, product, and content. The focus of the schools most often is content. There's very specific standards that kids have to attain, and they have to attain it to a certain level. STEAM is not like that in our minds. This is an opportunity for kids to be creative, to be exploratory, to kind of let their creativity run wild with it. Now, the end goal is to get the product really good. But we're doing kids a huge disservice if we expect them to have a really good end product in elementary school, middle school. Really, it's not till high school where I start expecting kids to have a really high quality end product when it comes to an engineering project or a science project or a technology project. Now, with that said, there's a couple other things too. So kids, when we emphasize the process, we got to remember that kids don't need to be taught how to build. We don't need to show them exactly what to do. We just need to give them opportunities and encouragement. And then we need to create an environment that fosters creativity and perseverance. We want to make sure that the kids feel like they can try something, fail, and move on from there.
So teaching craftsmanship, you can see there's a visual on the right-hand side of craftsmanship, and we see this a lot, especially in our art lessons, but really across the board in our design process and everything. Teaching kids that the quality of what they're doing is important, and taking the time in the process to pay attention to detail, how they're doing, exactly what they're doing, and how it's going to achieve the end.
Yeah, I stole this from our art teacher. She'd been talking a lot about craftsmanship the last couple months, and I was really interested in it, so I started doing some research. And, when we emphasize process, we tend to get a little too willy-nilly and say, oh, it's okay, yeah, whatever it looks like in the end doesn't really matter. But that's not necessarily true. It does matter. There's things we can do and teach the kids that will make the product better. And that's the end goal is to have the product be high quality, but we can't always expect that in the beginning. So, things like preparing for the task at hand, following directions, which is acknowledging the expertise of others, tolerating frustration, taking a break from something, and finishing projects. Oh, there's my little dot there.
Now, in this whole thing, there are some things that you're probably going to have to teach that you didn't think you'd have to. We run into this a lot with our kiddos. How to cut, how to use tape, how to rip the tape, to break it from the tape dispenser. You'd think that everyone knows how to do that. That's really just not the case.
And you would think that I'm talking about pre-K and kindergarten here, but no, this goes all the way up to fifth grade. I've taught fifth and sixth graders how to rip tape.
Has anyone seen this in their, in their experience? When to use tape and when to use glue. How to fold paper. We made paper snowflakes a couple of weeks ago, and just getting them to follow the directions and exactly how to fold the paper. This is a huge thing. But that's our job. We need to teach the kids how to do it and help them along.
Sound is in and out, huh? So anybody else having that problem? I know Susan said it came back.
Okay.
We'll make sure we'll speak loud and clear.
Okay, keep us updated if it's being weird.
Is the sound out?
Are we saying yes, the sound is out, or yes, you can hear us? It was going a couple times.
All right, thank you. All right, let us know if we're experiencing some sound difficulties. All right, so here's a quick example of something I did with my high school group. If you take the time to teach them the tools they're going to be using, even as simple as scissors and tape, it's going to pay off in the end. It's going to make for a higher quality product. They're going to enjoy the process more. It'll be less frustrating for them, and it'll give them a chance to really use their creativity without having the barriers of not knowing how to use the tools. So here's an example. I just did these centers for my high school kids, and this was at the very beginning of the year. I taught them. I just had a little challenge: cut a 2x4. Attach different objects together, figure out which adhesive to use. We did some electrical and soldering, teaching them how to use fasteners to attach various objects, and cutting and using raw materials. So just teaching them kind of the basics of these things. It pays dividends in the end when you do this kind of thing for your kids. And again, this is high school, but this works just as well with kindergarten, pre-K. All right, we're getting into it now. So just some things to stockpile when you start doing some of these recycled STEAM activities. You want to make sure you have plenty of styrofoam, cardboard, PVC pipes, scrap wood, plastic bottles, and paper towel rolls. We've got, this is one of our closets here, just kind of filled with some of that stuff, cardboard boxes that have been cut up. There's up at the top of the closet, you can see, this is styrofoam poster board. That stuff is pretty magical. Dollar store, we got a bunch of that at. We have scrap wood and pieces of styrofoam just hiding in there too. So this is a good reference. We're not going to read through the whole thing, but these are tools you want to have on hand. A couple of these tools like the rotary cutter, box cutter, and X-Acto knife, depending on the age of the kids, you may not want to let them use it, but these are things that you'll want to just have, and we'll talk about more of these things as we go.
All right, so getting into cardboard. We get so much use out of cardboard. It is the STEAM wonder material. So why? Well, it's cheap, almost always free. It's also very easy. We can cut it, we can shape it, and it's adaptable. It can be very strong and flexible as well. So here's some beginner cardboard ideas. By putting in some little slits into the cardboard, you could small scale, like the second picture in there, you can make some pieces that connect to each other via the little slits you put in there, or on the left you could make a whole big house. You can also build a rubber band boat. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later, but just getting started with a cardboard, there's a lot you can do on a beginner level.
And looking at this here, I mean, you could spend hundreds of dollars on a lot of these things, or you could make them yourself out of cardboard, which leads to many, many, many opportunities down the road.
Mm-hmm.
So getting into one of our first beginner activities here, just a suggested activity. This is one of the first things I did as a STEAM teacher specifically. We built a rubber band boat, and it's a really simple project. You need almost no materials, cardboard, duct tape, scissors, rubber bands, and some water to put it in. It can be like a little plastic shoebox even. It's more fun when it's bigger. But the steps are really simple. I mean, what you're going to do is you're going to just kind of outline the shape of your boat in cardboard, and then you're going to cut this little square out of the back. That's going to end up being your paddle. You're going to cover everything in duct tape, which, a quick note about that, that's what waterproofs it. I had a lot of kids skip that step the first time I tried this, and actually every time I try this, they skip that step. And the boats just kind of disintegrate in the water. That's a really good learning process for them, the whole following directions bit. Also, you know, the craftsmanship piece.
Mm-hmm.
When you're looking at this nice duct tape wrap job here, that is not student work. That is not. So, you know, helping kids learn how to just wrap it up to seal it up and waterproof it is an important skill. So we're going to attach the rubber band to the back just like that, and then wind it up and watch it go. This can easily be turned into a competition. This can easily be turned into a science experiment to experiment with different sizes of paddles, different sizes of boats, different types of rubber bands, looking at different variables to figure out which is going to impact the boat the most. There's a lot of different places we can take these simple activities. And so that we're going to kind of share those with you as we go. So some of those learning opportunities with this particular process, iterative design is huge in engineering, teaching kids engineering, teaching them that, hey, we don't just design things once and then move on. We build it and then build it again based on what we learned, and then build it again based on what we learned, and then build it again based on what we learned. So teaching them to design iteratively or to improve things as they go. Teaching them the engineering design process is a whole mindset that we can teach kids about how to research, plan, design, build, and test things. Opportunities to teach them about craftsmanship, opportunities to teach them or engage them in process versus product, and an opportunity to teach about engineering for strength.
Okay, and then another pretty easy one, if we're using cardboard via a egg carton. There are tons of applications here. There's just a couple pictures of things you can do with it on the side, but you cut out different shapes, you glue them together, you paint them, you can add other little things here. You can cut them in half and add a nose on it, so it's a cute little duck. You can make it a bee. I've seen tons of these, and they're very fun for the kids, and you can really get creative with it and really have some fun.
Nancy, that's an excellent question. Nancy asked, how much pushback do you get when asking to do over and over? That we do get a considerable amount of pushback from, especially from a lot of our gifted kids who think that they can do everything perfectly the first time. That it has to be part of your culture. It has to be the expectation that, you know, yeah, we're not just doing this once. We're going to design this multiple times. The whole point of this process is to design it multiple times. Once that becomes part of your culture, then, you know, the pushback just kind of goes away. It's good lesson for kids in life, not just in building rubber band boats, but in life, to teach them that, hey, you know, we're not going to do everything well the first time. We're not going to do it well the second time or third time a lot of times.
You know, and in our program, you know, music is also a part of it, and doing something over and over again until you get it where you need to be, and the practice strategies and everything, that's key in my music classes. So, you know, that, again, it kind of weaves in with your culture and what the kids expect.
Karen, excellent question. Our sessions are usually about an hour. And, you know, something simple like a rubber band boat, we could do 3 or 4 iterations in one session because they're pretty simple to build. Other times, yeah, we'll do multiple sessions. Our classes are usually set up so that they're once per week. And so we'll usually see the same group the next week. And, you know, we'll have them build it one week, and then go back. We'll kind of synthesize and rebuild it the next week. It depends on what kind of time you have, of course, and what the complexity of the project is. But yeah, we do several sessions.
So one intermediate cardboard activity is a balloon-powered race car. And this one is really fun for the kids, and there's a couple variations on it. So basically, you use a whole bunch of recycled materials. They're milk carton caps, and then a little skewer. Just be careful when you're breaking off the tips of them. You poke them through, and to make the axles. You take a piece of cardboard, cut a piece out in the middle, and then you take some straws. You tape them together. I recommend using a clothespin after you blow the balloon up through the straws. So you tape the balloon onto the end of the straws, and then you got to hold it. But I find that when the kids are holding it, a lot of the air leaks out, and then you're redoing the same thing over and over again. So paper clothespin works pretty well to keep that all sealed in. And then you take it off, and as the air goes out of the balloon and through the straws, the race car goes, and it's a lot of fun. And then, as you can see, the little race car on the left, with like the paper towel or toilet paper roll, that one it uses some Legos that the kids can put together and fasten that onto it, so you have a different type of design. So lots of variations on this one, but you can definitely learn a lot from it, including the fine motor skills to put it all together.
Well, and this is another great opportunity to to design iteratively. And going back to Nancy's question from earlier, a great tip with this would be to have a race and to give out some small award for the race, and then to say, okay, we're going to have another race. Mm-hmm. You can redesign or rebuild your car however you want. And 9 times out of 10, the kids are going to try to copy the winning car. And somebody's probably going to do it better than the original winner. They're going to make some minor change that's going to make it better. Again, you can have another race after that. Just, that's kind of the way things work in the real world too. And I make sure to point that out to kids. You take the iPhone. The first smartphone, everybody copied it. And then iPhone got a little bit better. And then everybody copied that. And then some companies did a little bit better than iPhone. So, that's kind of how progress is made in engineering.
So now another one is the robotic hand.
Getting a little more intermediate now.
Yeah. So with this one, I won't walk you through all the steps because we have a lot we want to share with you today still. But in short, you cut out the cardboard of your, in the shape of your hand. You make the fingers bend. Take little tiny pieces of straw, glue them on. Make some rings to go around your fingers. Tie the string, and then when you hold on to that little piece at the end, then you can actually as you move your fingers, the hand moves as well. And with this, you can take this into engineering, design, to art, biology. Yeah, there's a ton of applications still, and it has barely cost you a penny.
Pretty neat project. It takes a little more attention to detail.
Yeah, it's definitely be prepared to help the kiddos out as you're doing it.
So kind of wrapping up cardboard here, I would be remiss if I didn't share some of the amazing projects that have been made out of cardboard. Don't click the link now because you'll leave the webinar. But you can go back when this is over, and this will be posted on the Swiftland website. The hydraulic powered robot arm that's made almost entirely out of cardboard there. These little syringes, if you need to find those, find someone who has a kid or a couple small children like we do.
Got like 30 of them.
We have 1,000 of these things sitting around in our house. We could probably make this hydraulic arm right now for free. And it's really neat, but it is a very technical and challenging build. This would be something more appropriate for upper middle school, high school students, or kids that you've had working with these materials for some time. It takes a lot of patience, a lot of perseverance, and a lot of attention to detail to pull something like this off.
And I also think it's important with that not to rush the kids through it. If you're going to have them not just copy something but design it as well, give them the time to figure it out and to explore and experiment with it, because it can be really valuable, if you let them do their thing.
Absolutely. And then it's just some other things, and the YouTube channel link at the bottom there. There's I believe so. There's a guy called S.A.T.E.A. Productions, or production, and he makes just incredible things out of cardboard. He makes a version of Flappy Bird out of cardboard. It's got little mini DC motors in it and a little battery pack in it, but you can actually play Flappy Bird and Dino Run, the Google Chrome game when there's no internet. He makes a version of that out of cardboard. I saw him build a little working motorcycle, a little bike. Just some really incredible things that can be built out of cardboard. Again, if you've got a group coming in that's older, that's more experienced, that's more technical, then by all means, these options are open to you.
Okay, so getting into our next recycled material, we've got styrofoam. Has anyone used styrofoam in their library setting before for STEAM activities? It's super fun.
The styrofoam is my favorite, but it does come with some asterisks. We'll talk to you about in just a second. Styrofoam is great because you can find it everywhere. Oh, Nancy, this is good. You're gonna have some good ideas. You can find it just about everywhere. People are always throwing it away, and you can't. It's hard to recycle the stuff, and it just it's not good for the environment. So to give it a second use is a great thing. Here's some tools to start you out. Now, the MiniCut 2D is actually a CNC router for styrofoam. This is pretty high end. If you have an unlimited budget for STEAM, maybe you're in this range here.
Sorry, I stole your arrow.
You did. The Woodland Scenics wire foam cutter, the one in the middle. I just bought the last two on Amazon, so don't try to go buy them yet. We have a bunch of them already. They are awesome. They are so cool. This little wire up here, right there, this wire, it heats up and it melts through styrofoam like a hot knife through butter. It is really kind of amazing. And to answer your question, Milton, Susan, this is not necessarily for older kids. I have kindergartners regularly using this hot wire cutter, and it does take a bit of practice. So this one here would be good for even kindergartners. The one on the right here I wouldn't use because this little rod, we have one of these, it heats up a lot more than this wire does. This wire only is about as hot as a hot glue gun. And our kids burn themselves with hot glue guns all the time. So,
okay, though.
So this one here I would recommend for kids, definitely have parents sign a waiver in case they get a little burn. It is not going to cut anybody's finger off. It's not going to draw blood. But you might hear a little yelp from time to time. We have never had an issue with this one.
Yeah, I really would say we've had many little kindergartners using this one, and it really was fine.
Oh, and these are immensely satisfying. Here, let's keep moving on here, though. All right. So other styrofoam tools. Now these are coping saw, scissors, serrated knife. These are really good for cutting certain types of styrofoam. Scissors, if you have a really thin poster board, is good to cut. But the downside to these is it tends to get really messy.
Yeah.
So the other ones, they actually melt through these melt through the styrofoam. It gets rid of a lot of the mess. These create just tons of styrofoam dust, which is why the vacuum is important to have when you bring out the styrofoam. But it still shouldn't be a limiting factor. And if you have younger kids, coping saws seem dangerous. You can't hurt yourself with a coping saw. I mean, they're not sharp at all.
Takes a lot of effort to do so.
Yeah. So I've handed a kindergartner a coping saw many times. So the middle one here, the Woodland Scenics, would be good for kindergarten.
Mm-hmm. I would say my thing with that is just having them know that they need to, as they move through the styrofoam, to do it slowly, because I've seen them kind of tug on the wire by trying to go too fast.
Like we talked about before, making sure you specifically teach them how to use the tool before handing it off to them. All right, so a couple styrofoam tips. It can be very messy, so come prepared. There's a lot of different types of styrofoam. So, some are better for some things, some are better for other things.
Experiment beforehand.
Yeah.
Have some fun on your own.
Some of these are great for making a boat. Others are great for making shapes and forms and things like that. But all right, sanding styrofoam is awesome, but it's very messy. And it's also worth pointing out that some people really hate the sound of styrofoam, and I'd say like 1 in 15 kids.
Just as a little heads up.
There's usually one per class. So if you have any kids with some auditory issues or anything like that, keep that in mind. Styrofoam can be really, really strong. I had some of my high school kids build a styrofoam structure out of a single piece of styrofoam that held over 50 pounds. And I mean, if you just stand on the side of a piece of styrofoam, it'll hold you up. So
Yeah.
Alyssa hates the sound. Yes. So in a pinch, it doesn't have to be recycled. Home Depot project packs in the insulation aisle and the dollar store foam board are great. We have a lot of those things.
And I would also add in here, be careful when you're spray painting styrofoam, and if any like alcohol or nail polish remover, acetone happens to get near it, it will just disintegrate, which is a chemical science experiment, but be careful, and just as a little heads up.
We learned that the hard way. We had some kids build a water tower out of styrofoam and then went to spray paint it, and it just kind of melted on them. So some cool beginner activities. This is actually on the left here, the first styrofoam activity I ever did, which was to just kind of create your name. And I had a kid create this little Minecraft sword for me as well. We used the Woodland Scenic styrofoam cutter and just some spare styrofoam that we had sitting around from projects here. This over here is actually a house built by some of our attendees at one of our workshops. So it was really cool. So getting the styrofoam without buying it, you can always ask people to collect it. People usually have it sitting in their garage ready to throw away. Less and less people are using it for Amazon, so that makes it tough. But if somebody buys a TV or something like that, you're going to have lots of styrofoam to work with all of a sudden. A lot of times I do end up buying it just because it's really cheap, and we have a lot of great projects we can do with it. So a simpler project or an intermediate project here, same idea as the cardboard, but building a rubber band powered boat out of styrofoam. Same kind of idea. You're going to sketch it out. You're going to rough cut the hull, sand it smooth, and then add your propulsion. This is pretty easy in terms of an intermediate project, but it does require some kind of advanced planning here. So unless you're giving them the exact steps on what to do, could spruce it up a little bit. Here's another intermediate one. We went to a S.T.E.A.M competition one time where we had to build gliders, and we chose to do styrofoam gliders. Here's actually a picture of one of our students' gliders. There's a lot of styrofoam airplanes out there, and making your own is really fun. Again, I'm not going to walk you through the steps. You can go back and read those as your own free time. I don't want to spend too much time, but you can do a lot with these gliders, and the kids really enjoy building them. There's a lot of science behind what makes these gliders work, trying to get the right balance, and they have to be precise. They have to have that craftsmanship and that attention to detail. Otherwise, their gliders aren't really going to work. So it's a great way to kind of bring that out to say, hey, this stuff matters. So getting into some more advanced styrofoam, solar boats is just an amazing activity that we've done time and time again. Living in Florida, we get a lot of sunshine. It's not as hard as you might think to get a couple of 2x4s or 2x6s or 2x8s and then create a one-lane racetrack, fill it with some plastic sheeting, and then put some water in there. Do it outside, of course, which solar boats would require anyway. But creating solar boats, or they don't even have to be solar boats, they can be battery-powered boats, is a amazing engineering activity. It's highly technical. It actually can be pretty easy. We had some of our workshop participants create this little SS steamboat. It's not solar powered, it's battery powered, but I think that's me fishing off the back. So I think this boat won our eliminating competition. They're playing to the judges.
Yeah.
But solar boats, it's just a really cool process, and it's very accessible to kids of all ages. We've really started this project in third grade. I've had a couple second graders with showing success with this, and all the way up through high school, you can really run with this one. The electronics for this are really pretty simple. You need a power source, so a solar panel. It could be replaced with a little battery pack, which are only a couple dollars. You need a DC motor. Again, you can get it for $2-3. I used to pick them up like crazy at Radio Shack, but no, those are gone, so it's Amazon for me. Propellers. These links actually will take you to Amazon as well. Don't click them now, though. But these links will take you to Amazon and propeller shafts. So that's pretty much what you need to make this thing work and to have a real working solar boat. The rest is just shaping and designing and cutting the hull. it's, again, I can't emphasize how much fun this is and what a great project it is for kids to learn the engineering design process, to learn craftsmanship, and to work with recycled materials or to really cheap materials. Here's actually my middle school team. They won a solar boat competition. This was their design. That purple styrofoam there, it's a high density styrofoam. So it was really, really sturdy. They were able to make really thin pieces that were crazy light. It was cool.
Now this is getting into some styrofoam art. You can see this is one of our girls on the left. She made a couple circular pieces and then designed them with the social media logos. But you can see then in the middle on the right, we did not do those. They are much more complex, but just shows you the depth and breadth that you can get into with the styrofoam art.
And we've actually been kind of holding off on styrofoam because it is very messy, but January happens to be our styrofoam art contest at Full Steam Ahead. So it will be snowing all January long.
And then here's a couple other pretty intense styrofoam art and modeling pictures, just to give you guys some ideas of where we can go with all of this. Okay, getting into the music. The arts in STEAM, the arts and the music. This picture here is of one of our guys who is using a clarinet mouthpiece on a carrot clarinet. And then you can see in the back we have the Makey Makey is a little circuit board. We've used them in a couple of our workshops before. They're super fun, and you hook wires up to different conductors of electricity, and then you hook it up to your computer, and then you can play some music there. So getting into some of the DIY recycled materials instruments. Now, in some of my research, this is something that we do a lot with our kids in our own way, but then I found here on cpalms.org, again, don't click it now, this, that's where all the state standards and everything are posted, along with a lot of links and resources to lesson plans for teachers. So I found a website, or I found a link to a recycled materials instrument lesson. So it's great. This one breaks it down into a 5-day process, starting with watching a YouTube video of the Magic School Bus episode inside the haunted house. So you can kind of see in the picture what's going on in it, but basically they're learning to make their own instruments. So in the steps there for you, I just broke down pretty much each step is one of the days that the link provides. But basically the idea is you make a design for an instrument, you build it, you play it, and then you evaluate it, and then getting back into that iterative design, then you go in and you figure out okay, so it didn't make the sound I was really going for. How can I fix this and make it better? Make another one. Well, I'll show you as we get into our next slide here, the Battle of the Bands. It's hard to do this, harder than you might think. We co-host a STEAM competition with the Children's Museum in our area called Battle of the Bands. And, so the goal is design, build, and play a musical instrument made from found materials. And then the areas that we evaluate on in this competition are the intonation for the instrument to play the correct pitch accurately, the originality, the craft, how they built it. We also really dig into making sure that the kids can explain, it was a lot of fun, Amy, that the kids can explain how and why they made the instrument, and what happened in the process when they changed it, and then they can opt into performance for some extra points in the competition. Now, the picture on the left is that's one of the groups. This is a high school group. Actually, the girl is one of my past students. She's still grown up now. But this is the first picture is them a couple years ago in the competition. I think they still won. It was amazing.
They played Under the Sea.
Yeah, and
really well.
it was really, really good. And everyone was super impressed. The next picture, it's a little blurry. It's just a screenshot of the video of them playing. They made like that electric guitar that the guy in the back is playing. He actually built that. Like, he sanded the wood. He shaped the guitar. They made everything truthfully from scratch. And the violin that the girl is playing on the right, everything they made.
3D printed.
It is incredible. And it shows that, you know, with having this Battle of the Bands annually, it really shows. They actually made them in school. It was there was a S.T.E.A.M class, and when they stick with it, and when they learn from the previous year, and went from there and learned from their, don't even want to say mistakes, but just going on making it better, the growth is just tremendous. So, if we give the kids these opportunities, they can really, really fly. It's pretty awesome.
And I should add, Hillary mentioned that it is really challenging to make instruments sound good. It's not that challenging to make instruments. So there's a big, you can make a lot of noise pretty easily, and the kids really enjoy that. And we're going to show you some of these projects.
So, a harmonica. Erin, this is your favorite, right? We've done this one in a workshop. They sound fabulous. Not really. You take popsicle sticks, you take paper, you take some toothpicks, and you take some rubber bands and tape. Those are your supplies. And, essentially you just put the popsicle sticks on top of each other, and the rubber band goes around it, and it acts like a reed for when you're, breathing through and you're pushing your air through. And then this delightful sound comes out. And then with those little, if you see in the bottom picture, with those little slits of paper, the little white papers in the bottom.
Those guys.
Yeah, those guys. Those are your pitch sliders. It's actually kind of cool. The farther apart you have them, the lower the sound it's going to make, and you push them together, and the higher the sound is. So the kids can kind of play a song-ish. But again, it's a great learning process for the kids. Easy enough, and but still working on those fine motor skills and the design process. Now, making a flute. We were like, yeah, we're going to make a PVC flute. This is going to be great. I play the flute. I thought it, it's lovely. It's really hard. There's a lot to it. And like Ryan said, making one that actually makes a noise, not a problem. But making one that can play the pitches that you want, and using getting the air vibrating in the right ways, and where to position the holes and all that. For high school kids, if you're going to get into the physics of sound and things like that, yes, totally. For the younger kids, you might find that making a PVC flute is a little bit much. So the one that I recommend for the younger guys is a straw flute. It's kind of like a recorder. And with this one, you just, you kind of flatten it, you cut off the edges, and again, when you squish the straw together, that acts like a reed, and then you blow through it, and it makes a sound. When you put in little holes into the straw, it becomes like a little, recorder flute, and you can play a song roughly. And then if you put a little bell on the end, like in that this other picture where you wrap some paper around the edge, so that the sound is amplified, that's pretty fun. So that's a good recycled material flute option for you. And then one of the last things I'm going to share with you for music is to make a bugle. So for this, you need a hose and a funnel and a little mouthpiece and some tape. And you wrap it up, you put the funnel in at the end. You can decorate it, design it as you like. Then you blow into it. You've got to buzz your lips together. It takes a lot of breath support. And you can make a pretty, we'll say decent sounding brass instrument. But it's a ton of fun and not quiet, I will say. I have a lot of music activities that, believe it or not, are quiet. But these, where you're building your instruments, they're not.
We're just having fun.
Yeah, So you find a time when it's appropriate, and there might not be a whole ton of people around, where you're not disturbing the peace too terribly.
All right, so we did some styrofoam, some cardboard, some music. We're gonna get into some other recycled materials. This is just kind of our catch-all here, some other things that we can use that are cheap or free, or just things that we have lying around that we can make really cool projects out of.
How are we doing out there? Are we all still good, still awake?
So Coke and Mentos launchers is a really fun project. If you've never seen Coke and Mentos go together, then stop everything you're doing, go to YouTube and watch it, or go to the store and get it.
Not the
webinar. Oh wait, yeah, don't stop everything. So Coke and Mentos, it's not technically recycled because you need the Coke in there. So you will need, if you want to create some recycled soda bottles, then start here. So it's really easy. It can be really easy. So open the soda up, drop in the Mentos, and then get back, because it's just an incredible reaction. I mean, Mythbusters does a thing on this. There's a million YouTube videos about this. So in order to spice it up S.T.E.A.M style, rather than just taking a look at it and, going ooh and ah, I like to add, different layers to these types of projects, like creating an engineering challenge involving designing a contraption to quick release a Mentos?
Mentos.
What's the plural of Mentos?
I never know.
Mentoses? Anyway. Or a bunch of Mentoses at once. So this actual Instructable here is an example of making how you can make one of these. And I've seen where you can make them. We haven't actually made a bunch of them at a time, but you can make one that launches like 20 bottles at once. Lisa, I'm not that familiar with the SodaStream machine. I don't know if you could or not, but I would do it outside for sure, because it's going to be messy. It's going to be very, very messy. It's just
it seems like either way you might want to.
Yeah. I also when I used to teach, I still teach. When I used to teach in public schools, I would tie this into science. I would do this. This was a popular project. I would actually ask the kids to bring in a random bottle of soda, and then I would provide a bunch of different types of Mentos. There's like flavored Mentos and regular Mentos. Well, I guess there's not that many different types. We would design an experiment to test to get the ultimate combination of Mentos and soda types. And that whole scientific process, designing an experiment, is an incredibly valuable process. That analytical thinking piece is just a great way to help kids solve big problems down the road. Being able to break apart a big problem and then just put it into a coherent series of steps. Anyway, so turning this into a science project, turning this into an engineering project, there's a lot of ways we can go with Coke and Mentos besides just the ooh and ah factor, although the ooh and ah factor is really fun too. Biospheres and terrarium aquariums. These are something I remember doing these when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember, and then I did it again when I was teaching science in the schools, and I still do it. It's a really cool project. The ones on the right, we're going to differentiate here. These are terrariums. I'm sorry, these are aquarium terrariums. It's part terrarium on top, part aquarium on the bottom. The ones on the left over here, this one on the left, I should say, is a biosphere. And here is the difference. A biosphere is an enclosed, self-sustaining ecosystem. So the ones on the right were not enclosed. They were open to the air. The ones on the left, or this one that I'm showing you here, it's designed to actually be completely closed off to the outside world, kind of like the corny 90s movie Biodome. So I don't know if anybody understands that reference, but
I think it's only you.
It's pretty simple to make these, and it's really cool. It's actually pretty tough to find a balance that will work for a really long time, but that's part of the experimental process, is trying to figure out how we can get this symbiosis between the plants creating enough oxygen, the organic matter decaying and creating carbon dioxide, or the fish exhaling carbon dioxide, or the bugs and worms exhaling, and trying to create that balance in the system. It's a really neat project, and it requires almost no resources. And if you have a bunch of bottles laying around, then this would be a great project to use them up, and the kids can take them home at the end of the day. And if you have the Biosphere, a lot of times they'll last for weeks and weeks, without everything dying. And thank you for the tips, Lisa, on the diet soda. And I like experimenting with different types of soda, but I think, if I remember, diet root beer was
that was a winner.
Maybe the winner. I don't remember, but I don't know if the carbonation in water would work. We never tried that one. Or no, you know what? I think we did try just seltzer water, and it didn't do much. It worked, but not as well.
And then it'd be interesting to find out exactly why, and have the kids do some research on it.
It's half the fun.
So getting into some more basic little bottle art things that you can do with the kiddos. These are just a few ideas. There are tons out there. Ranging from pretty easy up through incredible. Some bottle fish, you just get the water out of the bottle and cut the bottom off, cut in the little slits in the side, and then paint it. And one of the things that we like doing is when we're doing something, for example, like we're making a fish, we want to really tie it into science, into some other concepts, rather than just leaving it right there. I would have the kids, explore the fish in the area and try to actually make a specific fish, follow the design, learn about the ecology of your whole area. One time we made a mangrove ecosystem art project where they basically cut out paper and used different paint and little sparkles to make the sun, but they had to do some research to learn about what an ecosystem is and how the mangrove ecosystem functions in our area, and then turn that into an art project. So I think it's important to note, as you're doing all this stuff, to try to take it to the next level and really let it relate to the kids. Bottle penguins. And
Lisa's question, did you let the kids cut the bottles? It depends on the age of the kids.
Yeah.
This is really a project for younger kids. So no, I wouldn't let second or third graders, or first or second graders rather, to use those.
Right. Often we use tempera paint, but I think you have to add to it a little bit when you're drawing on the bottle, kind of like you're saying. Also, if there's any condensation on the bottle, if it's wet at all, the paint doesn't stick as much. So you need to really make sure it's dry. And as you're making yours ahead of time to demonstrate for the kids, make sure you tell them all those little pieces.
And you can even try using some sandpaper to kind of rough up the bottle a little bit. It gives the paint a better surface to stick to.
For sure. And then I don't know if anyone has CDs anymore.
If you're like us, you've probably used your last CD ever.
But you can turn that into fish and other cute little things.
Time to start recycling.
Yeah.
So this is actually just a project that I worked on many years ago, back when I had time to do such things. Just taking an example of how we can take trash and make pretty cool things with it. I happen to like fishing, so I built a redfish and a snook out of old bottle caps.
You might not want to let the kids.
Yeah, no. One of my favorite activities, and if you're like us, like me, you probably have just old VCRs, cameras, cell phones, just kind of sitting in a box somewhere, hoping that one day those things will again become popular. If you do, it's a really cool activity, especially for, upper elementary, middle school kids, but you can do it with younger too. It's just harder for them to manipulate the tools. It's a really cool activity to take apart old electronics. Even if you don't try to put them back together, having kids trying to identify what these components are, you can learn so much just by taking things apart. I mean, how many geniuses have you come across that say, oh, I used to love to tinker with things and take apart my parents' remote control and put it back together? You hear that all the time, and I feel like kids don't do that anymore because, one, things have become really complex. Like our new remote controls have LCD screens on them, and you can talk to them. And two, they've become a lot better engineered. They're harder to take apart.
Yeah.
But if you have some of this old stuff laying around, it's really cool to give kids an opportunity. Hand them a screwdriver, hand them a hammer, give them an opportunity to just kind of take these things apart to see how they work. It's amazing what kids can learn just by breaking stuff.
And then I would also take the opportunity to, if you have a makey, one of those, we touched on it a little bit earlier, but, it's focused, for education. It's a little circuit board, but honestly, it doesn't look that much different from, the little circuit board that you see in that picture. And compare it to the makey, or if you have any little bits at your library, compare, that's another kind of little snap circuit thing, but compare it to that and then see, what similarities you see and what you might actually be able to make out of this. How can you use these parts in the electronic that you took apart to make something else? And then also I wanted to mention, you could take it the art direction. I've seen a lot of really cool artwork and construction and I don't want to say sculptures, but not using pieces of electronics. So that's another way you could another direction you can go.
And just a quick note, if you are taking apart electronics, old computers or anything like that, if you try to put it back together, it's a really good practice to take notes on where everything goes, because if you don't, it's really easy to lose track of where things go. Again, don't do this with anything valuable, but also be careful. Obviously make sure it's unplugged, but make sure it hasn't been used too recently either, because things like computers, they can actually hold a charge in their power supply for a couple days. So just use proper precautions. A quick Google search will tell you if it's safe enough, but 99.9 times out of 100, this is all going to be safe to take apart. But just be careful. Listen, cool. That sounds really cool. The sculpture
of computer parts.
I would like to do that. I have a lot of old computer parts.
Mm-hmm. Hey, we've got the time.
And just kind of keeping in mind our little kids here. I mean, these can be pre-K activities. They don't need a whole ton of coordination to be able to do this kind of stuff.
But I think for example, that little cardboard tube marble run, the Children's Museum has a very complex one. In our area, it's very, very cool, but you don't need it to be that complex. You could take paper towel rolls, and think outside the box here. It doesn't need to be just one dropping to the other, dropping to other. Can you make a track along the wall? You can just tape it right to the wall. Can you make a design where the marble is going to go all the way through? Can you make almost like a picture on the wall through the way you position the paper towel rolls?
And
go ahead.
because I like to turn everything into a competition, I like to tell the kids. Yeah, right. I like to tell the kids, all right, let's see who can make the marble run last for the longest amount of time using the set amount of material. So here's 10 cardboard tubes. See how long you can make your cardboard or your marble run last for. Yeah. So then they have to experiment with angles and how to get things to slow down. And it just kind of, it's a way for them to have to apply different thinking skills.
And this lesson is really cool because, we have it here as for the little kids, but the older kids can learn a lot from it too. So, definitely worth it.
So we're getting ready to wrap up here. Just a minute left. There's so many amazing resources available to us. I mean, we could list resources for the rest of our lives on this slide here because there's so many out there. again, so much of what we're doing is not about the content. You know, I don't care if my kids know how to tape a paper towel roll to a wall. It's about the process. It's about the skills that they're learning, the thinking skills that they're acquiring. So, you know, all of these activities that we can find out there on any of these sites and way beyond, they are, you know, they're as good as the process used to teach them and the skills that you highlight and illuminate for the kids. So, you know, take these activities, take these resources, and use the thinking skills, use the processes to help make them amazing STEAM lessons.
Thank you so much for being with us. I hope you liked it. If you have any questions, feel free to email us. You know, in summary, the STEAM projects and lessons don't need to be crazy high-tech and expensive. Kids learn from the process. They build their craftsmanship. And common materials, recycled things really go a long way. And I think that the last point is most important. Don't be afraid to try it. Just dive in, give it a shot, and when the kids see you taking a risk, they'll follow suit, and really amazing things happen.
Kids love to see us fail.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
so
a
much,
wonderful
everyone.
webinar. Attendees, if you enjoyed this webinar,
Oh, we're
please join us
excited.
for Full Steam Ahead's next webinar, STEAM Fiction, Ideas for Connecting Literature to STEAM, which will take place on Thursday, February 1st. As always, we encourage you to look at the upcoming webinars and workshops in months ahead and hope you're all able to join us for future training opportunities. We encourage you, as always, to check the Swiftland Continuing Education calendar on the Swiftland website, look for the events on the Swiftland Facebook pages, or look for your message from the various library listservs. Thank you everyone for attending and have a terrific rest of your day.